I still remember that night, like it was yesterday. The smell of rosemary steak filled the air, soft jazz played from the old record player, and the candles flickered between us. It should have been romantic. But the silence, it was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Lena sat across from me, her posture perfect, her eyes avoiding mine. She wore the perfume I bought her on our 5th anniversary, the same scent that used to make my heart race. Now it just reminded me of something slipping away. I tried to read her face, but there was nothing there. No warmth, no guilt, just a kind of calm that scared me more than anger ever could. The sound of the knife against her plate echoed in my head. Something was coming, I could feel it. Then she said it. "Ethan, we need to talk." Her voice was steady, almost rehearsed. She reached into her bag, pulled out an envelope, and slid it across the table. I stared at it. It was thick, official looking, my name printed neatly on the front. I didn't need to open it. I already knew, divorce papers. I let the moment hang there. The candles flickered. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. She watched me, waiting for a reaction, maybe tears, maybe outrage. But all she got was silence. Inside, I felt something twist, but not the way she expected. I wasn't heartbroken. I was relieved, because I finally knew I wasn't crazy. Weeks of distance, late-night meetings, sudden new expenses. I'd told myself to trust her. But trust, I learned, is only real when both people are holding on. I looked up at her, and she gave me that same soft smile she always used when she wanted to end a conversation before it began. It used to disarm me. Tonight, it only confirmed what I already knew. "Lena," I said quietly, "you've been planning this for a while, haven't you?" Her eyes flickered, just for a second. A tiny crack in the perfect mask. "I think it's for the best," she said. "We've both grown apart." Grown apart. That's what she called lying, moving money, and pretending. I took a slow breath and nodded, pretending to process it. Then I reached down beside my chair and pulled out my briefcase. Her eyes narrowed. "What's that?" "Just something I've been working on," I said. "Since we're exchanging paperwork tonight." I placed the envelope in front of her. It looked just like hers, clean, professional, sealed tight. She frowned, confused, then slid it toward herself. "What is this?" she asked. "An audit," I said simply. "You might want to read it before dessert." She hesitated, but curiosity got the better of her. The sound of paper sliding from the envelope filled the silence. For a few seconds, she didn't react. Her eyes moved over the pages, slowly at first, then faster. I could see her breathing change, short. Uneven. Every page was a mirror. Transactions, account numbers, signatures, all pointing back to her, and to the man she thought I'd never suspect. When she finally looked up, the color had drained from her face. "Ethan, what is this?" "It's what I found when I stopped believing your words and started following the numbers," I said quietly. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked terrified, not because of me, but because of what she knew those pages meant. It wasn't just about us anymore. It was about her career, her reputation, everything she'd built on a lie. I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the silence. "You wanted to end this marriage, Lena, and you're right, it does need to end. But not the way you planned." For a long moment, she didn't move. Her hands trembled slightly, resting on the papers that had just destroyed the story she thought she controlled. Outside, I could hear the distant hum of traffic. Inside, time stood still. Then I said the words that ended everything between us, not in anger, but in truth. That night, she thought she'd ended our marriage. But I'd already ended her game. The candle between us burned lower, wax pooling at the base like melted memories. And in that moment, for the first time in years, I felt free. 3 months before that dinner, I thought everything in my life was fine. At least, that's what I told myself. But sometimes, the worst betrayals don't start with a storm. They start with silence. With little changes you can't quite explain. Lena had started coming home later than usual. "Work's been crazy," she'd say, tossing her bag on the couch. I'd nod, trying to believe her. But her perfume always lingered longer than it should have, and her smile. It never reached her eyes anymore. At first, I ignored it. We'd been married for 10 years. People change, routines shift, right? But soon, small details began to whisper the truth. A credit card bill that didn't make sense. A dinner charge for 2 at a restaurant we'd never been to. A new bracelet she said was a gift from the office. It wasn't the money that hurt, it was the lies wrapped around it. One evening, while Lena was working late, I called my best friend. Mark. He'd known us both for years. He was even the best man at our wedding. He told me not to overthink it. "You've been working too hard, Ethan." "You're just stressed," he said. I wanted to believe him. But there was something strange in his tone, too calm, too measured. Like he knew something I didn't. That night, I sat alone in my office, staring at our wedding photo. She was laughing, holding my hand like I was her entire world. Now that same hand felt empty. The next morning, something small cracked the illusion completely. I was sorting through a pile of mail when a folded receipt slipped out from a jewelry store downtown. A diamond necklace. The receipt listed my name on the billing address, but not the delivery. I froze. Lena never wore anything like that. And I hadn't bought it. I remember whispering to myself, "So who did you give it to, Lena?" I could have confronted her right then. I could have shouted, demanded answers, thrown everything on the table. But something inside me said, wait. If I reacted too soon, I'd only get more lies. So instead, I started watching, listening. Lena's routines became clues. Her phone was always face down. Her laughter on late-night calls was softer, different. And when she looked at me, it wasn't love anymore. It was guilt, disguised as politeness. I began to do what I do best, analyze. By day, I'm an auditor. I follow patterns, numbers, trails people try to hide. Now I was auditing my own marriage. I started with our joint account. Within hours, I found something strange. Transfers to a small company I didn't recognize. L&M Consulting. The initials hit me like a punch. Lena and who? I traced the payments. They were disguised as reimbursements from her office, but the money didn't go back to her employer. It disappeared into that private account. The deeper I dug, the more I saw the truth forming. Invoices that didn't add up. Fake vendor names. Dates that matched her business trips. And every trail led back to her. But there was another name attached, a cosigner. When I saw it, my stomach turned cold. Mark, my best friend. The man who told me I was overthinking. The one person I trusted to tell me the truth. Was helping her hide it. I leaned back in my chair that night, staring at the spreadsheet glowing on my laptop. 2 people I loved the most, connected by lies. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just sat there, letting the realization sink in like poison. They thought I'd never notice. But numbers, they don't lie. From that night on, I changed. I stopped asking questions, stopped chasing explanations. I became quiet, dangerously quiet, because I had decided something. I wasn't going to confront them. I was going to expose them. There's a moment in every betrayal when the truth finally fits together, and it hurts more than you imagined. For me, that moment came one quiet night, surrounded by spreadsheets, empty coffee cups, and a silence that felt too heavy to breathe in. I wasn't an investigator. I was an accountant. Numbers were my language, and that night, they told a story louder than words ever could. It started when I followed one payment from a client. Just one, something that should have gone to a vendor. But instead, it was rerouted to a small consulting firm. L&M Consulting. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the ledger. I'd seen that name before, again and again. Every month. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Maybe Lena's company had a new partner. Maybe it was just business. But the amounts were too specific, too familiar. Each transfer matched projects I had personally signed off on at my firm, which meant someone was using my credentials. I dug deeper. Emails, invoices, digital signatures, all perfectly replicated. But the metadata told the truth. The files had been created from Lena's laptop. That's when I saw the second name, Mark. I stared at it for a long time, my chest tightening. Mark, my best friend. The man I trusted like a brother. The one who told me to relax when I started asking questions. It wasn't just an affair. It was theft. And I was their cover. They had used my reputation, my clean record, my trust, to make everything look legitimate. I was the face they hid behind. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at my reflection in the window. How do you process something like that? The woman you loved, the friend you grew up with, both playing you for a fool and smiling through it. Part of me wanted to storm into Mark's office and expose him. Another part wanted to confront Lena, to see her lie one more time, just so I'd never forget the look in her eyes. But then, something inside me shifted. Rage was easy. Truth took patience. If I wanted justice, real justice, I had to do it the way I knew best, carefully, quietly, and completely. So I started building my file. Every night after work, I'd stay late under the excuse of auditing errors. But in reality, I was tracing every dollar, every forged document, every whisper of deceit. I printed records, cross-checked statements, verified dates. And as I worked, the puzzle came together. Lena's business trips matched fake transactions. Mark's client meetings aligned with deposits. Even the necklace receipt, it came from the same card used to open their secret account. They thought they were clever. But they forgot one thing. I knew the system better than anyone. Some nights, I'd sit there with tears in my eyes, not from pain, but from exhaustion. I kept asking myself, how long had they been planning this? Was I ever more than a stepping stone? But with each new piece of evidence, something stronger replaced the heartbreak. Clarity. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about accountability. By the end of the second week, I had built a complete audit, one that could bring down not just their scheme, but their entire facade. I had timestamps, bank routes, IP logs, everything. It was perfect. I sealed the file in a folder labeled simply L&M. As I closed my laptop, I whispered to myself, not out of anger, but certainty, you built your lies on my name. Now my truth will destroy yours. From that night on, I wasn't the broken husband anymore. I was the quiet storm they never saw coming. I stopped imagining shouting matches or confrontations. I started picturing the moment they'd realize, too late, that I'd been watching all along. And in that thought, I found peace, because I realized something powerful, something I'd carry with me forever. The best revenge isn't rage. It's truth, timed perfectly. I planned that night like a quiet storm. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I prepared, slow and steady, until every piece fit. For weeks I wore the mask of the loving husband. I smiled when she walked in, asked about her day, made jokes about the dog. I hugged her like everything was fine. Inside I was counting moments, watching, learning, waiting. Did she notice? Maybe. Did I care? Not in the way she thought. People ask me why I didn't confront her right away. Why I didn't explode. The answer is simple. Rage is loud and messy. Truth is quiet and final. If you want justice, you must let them think they're still winning. I suggested the dinner like it was nothing. Let's have a nice evening, I said, genuine enough to make her relax. She agreed, and for a second I almost believed we might be okay. Almost. But the dinner was never about fixing us. It was about finishing what I had started. Every night after work, I sat at my desk and turned my skills toward our life. I printed bank statements. I matched invoices. I checked timestamps and IP logs. I cross-checked receipts with flights and hotel bookings. I followed small trails that led to big lies. Each discovery tightened the plan. Each proof hardened my resolve. I made the audit like a craftsman builds a watch, careful, precise, every piece in place. The file wasn't just numbers. It was a map of their deception, the transfers, the fake vendors, the card used for the necklace, the shell account with its deliberate misdirection. I wrote clear notes, added evidence, and made it impossible to deny. Then I made copies. I sent one to my lawyer with a short message, "Review for immediate action." I sent another to the company's board with only facts and dates. No drama, no accusations without proof. I kept the last copy with me for the night I'd chosen. The one in my briefcase had my handwriting on the cover. L and Mum, Audit. Simple, direct, unmistakable. People think revenge needs theatrics. It doesn't, it needs control. I practiced calm like a muscle. I rehearsed what I might say, and more importantly, how I would hold my face. The less they saw, the more they revealed. I bought her favorite wine that week, the same bottle we'd had on our wedding anniversary. I picked it up slowly, pretending it was nostalgia. I wanted the evening to look like a love story gone wrong, not a trap set in cold blood. The wine made the table soft and familiar. The music was the same jazz we used to dance to. I even cooked the rosemary steak she loved. Every detail was meant to lower her guard. On the surface, it looked like a night to remember for the wrong reasons. Beneath it, it was the moment where truth would finally speak. I thought about the look on her face when the pages unfolded. I thought about Mark's silence when the board called him in. I wondered how quickly they'd piece things together once the papers left my hands. Would they panic? Would they try to run? Or would they simply stand there, stunned, and watch their carefully built life crumble? I didn't want them to suffer more than necessary. I wanted accountability. I wanted a clean ending. Justice, not vengeance for the sake of anger. When the table was set and the candles were lit, I felt the strange calm of a man who had done what he had to do. I folded my napkin, straightened my tie, and told myself one last thing. Be precise. Be honest and let the truth do its work. The stage was set. The players had no idea the curtain was about to fall. The night had a strange stillness, like the air before a storm. The candles flickered between us, casting soft shadows across the table. Lena sat opposite me, confident, composed, the same way someone looks when they believe they've already won. She cleared her throat softly, her tone calm but cold. "Ethan, I think it's time we stop pretending," she said, reaching into her purse. A faint smile tugged at her lips as she pulled out a thick envelope. She placed it on the table, the sound sharp against the wood. Divorce papers. I looked at them, then at her. "You rehearsed that, didn't you?" Her smile faltered for just a second. "I just want peace, Ethan. We're not happy anymore. This is what's best for both of us." I nodded slowly, letting the silence stretch between us. "Peace," I repeated quietly. "That's a nice word for it." She folded her arms, leaning back like she was waiting for an argument that would never come. But I stayed calm. Too calm. After a moment, I reached into my briefcase and pulled out my own envelope. I set it down gently beside hers. "If we're exchanging papers tonight," I said, "you might want to take a look at mine too." Her eyebrows rose. "What's this?" "An audit," I said softly. "A summary of our marriage. And a few of your side projects." She frowned, sliding the envelope toward herself. The paper rustled as she opened it. At first, she was casual, almost amused. But as her eyes moved down the pages, that confidence started to fade. Her lips parted slightly. Her hands began to tremble. This isn't real, she whispered. Oh, it's real, I said. Every number, every transaction. I made sure of it. She shook her head, flipping through the pages faster, as if the next one might make it all disappear. How did you find out? I leaned back, my voice steady. You should know by now, people lie, but numbers don't. The color drained from her face. Ethan, this isn't what you think. Oh, I think it's exactly what I think, I replied quietly. L&M Consulting. You remember that name, don't you? Her eyes darted up to meet mine. She froze. And in that silence, everything was confirmed. I know about the transfers, the false invoices, the joint account under your maiden name. I paused, watching her expression crumble. And I know about Mark. She flinched at his name like it was a wound she didn't expect me to touch. Her voice broke slightly. It's not what you don't, I interrupted softly. Don't lie to me anymore. The table between us suddenly felt miles wide. She tried to speak, but her throat caught. I could see guilt fighting with panic in her eyes. Ethan, please. I can explain. I shook my head. No, you had your chance. I gave you trust, and you gave me fraud. You built your little empire on my name. You and Mark thought you could use me, hide behind my record, and walk away clean. I leaned forward, voice calm but sharp as glass. You two built your empire on lies. I just audited it. She covered her mouth, tears forming. What did you do? I sent copies to my lawyer and to the company board this morning, I said. They'll handle the rest. Her hand dropped to her lap as the reality hit her. Her job, her reputation, everything she'd built gone. The woman who once looked unstoppable now sat in front of me, small and broken. You've destroyed me, she whispered. I stared at her for a long moment. No, Lena, you destroyed yourself. I just showed you the balance sheet. Outside, the faint wail of sirens grew louder. She turned toward the window, her eyes wide, voice trembling. Ethan, what did you do? I told the truth, I said simply. The knock at the door came seconds later, firm, undeniable. Lena froze. The wine glass beside her shook from her trembling hand. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and looked at her one last time. There was no satisfaction in my voice, just quiet finality. Justice doesn't always shout, Lena. Sometimes it just knocks. I walked past her toward the door. Behind me, the sound of paper falling to the floor echoed, the audit file slipping from her hands. And as I opened the door, I knew one thing for sure. The truth had finally spoken louder than all her lies. It's been 6 weeks since that night. 6 weeks since the truth came crashing down like a wave that swept everything away. Lena and Mark faced the consequences quickly. The company's investigation confirmed everything in my audit. Their names were removed from every record, every partnership. The news spread fast. Financial misconduct uncovered by senior auditor. My name was cleared. My reputation saved. People congratulated me. My boss called me a hero. I even got promoted for uncovering one of the largest internal frauds the firm had ever seen. On paper, I won, but winning never felt this heavy, because when the noise faded and the calls stopped, I was left with silence. And silence, I've learned, has a sound. It echoes with memories. Some nights I still hear her laugh. Not the cold, distant one from the end, but the soft one from when we first met. I still remember her sneaking into my office with coffee, teasing me for working too late. That woman, the one I fell in love with, she's gone. And the one who betrayed me, I don't even recognize her anymore. People think revenge feels powerful. They think once justice is served, everything inside you heals. But it doesn't. It just quiets. You stop shaking, but the ache stays. I went back to that restaurant last night. The same one where it all ended. I didn't plan to. My car just seemed to turn there on its own. The waiter recognized me, even smiled politely. "Table for one?" he asked. I nodded. Same table. Same spot. Same candlelight. But everything else was different. The chair across from me was empty. The silence sat heavier than before. I ordered the same wine, the one she loved. I poured a glass for her out of habit, then caught myself halfway through. I laughed softly, a tired, hollow laugh. It's strange. You can uncover every secret, expose every lie, and still wish things were different. You can miss the person who hurt you, even when you know they don't deserve it. As I sat there, I thought about everything I'd gained: respect, truth, closure. And everything I'd lost: love, trust, peace. A part of me wondered if it was worth it. Then again, maybe it wasn't about worth. Maybe it was about doing what was right, even when it hurts. Because I didn't destroy her, I exposed her. And in doing that, I saved myself. Still, there's a cost to truth. When you pull the mask off others, you end up seeing yourself too. All the ways you ignored the signs. All the excuses you made for the people you loved. I took a slow sip of wine and whispered to myself, you can win the war and still lose the peace. Maybe that's what this was. A war I didn't ask for but had to finish. The candle burned lower, the wax dripping down like slow tears. Outside, the city lights shimmered, bright, distant, untouchable. Before I left, I looked at the empty chair one last time. And for a brief moment, I didn't feel anger. I just felt human. I missed the laughter, the warmth, the way things used to be before the lies. But I also knew, sometimes losing someone is the only way to find yourself again. I stood up, paid the bill, and walked out into the cool night air. The world moved on around me, cars passing, people laughing, life continuing. And I realized, so could I. Justice had its price. But peace, real peace, comes when you stop fighting ghosts. As I walked away, I didn't look back. For the first time in a long time, I didn't need to. It's been almost a year since that night. A year since I watched everything I thought I knew come crashing down, and somehow found myself still standing. I live in a smaller place now. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet apartment with a balcony that catches the morning sun. I make my own coffee, I read more, and I sleep better, most nights, at least. Lena and Mark. They're no longer part of my story. Their names became headlines for a while, then faded into silence. Justice did what it had to do, and I let it. I didn't chase their downfall. I didn't celebrate it either. Because I learned something along the way. Revenge might give you closure, but it doesn't heal you. Only acceptance does. After everything ended, I kept asking myself one question: who am I without the pain? It took me months to answer that. These days, I spend my time volunteering with a financial ethics group, helping small business owners avoid scams and betrayals like the one I lived through. It's strange, really. The very thing that broke me is now what helps me guide others. Maybe that's life's way of restoring balance. I tell people the truth, that I'm not proud of what happened. Not proud of the lies I exposed or the trap I set. But I am proud that I never lost my integrity. I didn't sink to their level. I didn't twist facts or fake justice. I let the truth speak for itself. And that's what saved me. Sometimes I visit that old restaurant again, not out of nostalgia, but closure. It's changed owners now. The lights are brighter, the music softer. But when I walk past that table, the one where it all ended, I feel something different. Not pain, not regret. Just gratitude. Because that's where I stopped living in denial. That's where I finally chose myself. It's easy to hate the people who betray you. It's harder to thank them for showing you who you really are. But that's what Lena's betrayal did. It stripped away the illusions, the comfort, the lies I told myself about what love should look like. And when everything else fell apart, what remained was something pure truth. I remember one evening, While leaving the volunteer center, an older woman I'd helped said, "You must really believe in justice." I smiled and told her, "Not justice, just truth. Because justice punishes. Truth frees. When you've lived through deceit, you start to see honesty as a kind of light, not blinding, but warm. It doesn't erase the past, but it helps you walk through it without fear." Sometimes I still wonder, if Lena had chosen differently, would we have survived? Maybe, maybe not. But now I know, love built on lies is never really love. It's just a story waiting to fall apart. As I walk along the street near that old restaurant, the sun starts to set. The sky turns a soft gold, fading into orange. I stop for a moment, watching it. And for the first time in a long time I smile, not because everything's perfect, but because I finally understand it doesn't have to be. I whisper to myself, almost like a quiet prayer, betrayal breaks you twice. First when they lie, then when you stop believing in love. But truth can rebuild what lies destroy. The camera would fade out here, soft music rising, a warm tone lingering in the air. Ethan, the man who once lost everything, walking into the fading sunlight, calm, whole, and finally free. Because in the end, revenge was just the noise before the peace. And peace was the real victory. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Ethan didn't destroy them. He exposed the truth and found peace. Because when lies fall apart, truth always stands tall. If this story hit your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of betrayal, justice, and redemption. Tell me in the comments, would you have done what Ethan did? Remember, you can lose love, but never lose yourself.